Okay, seriously guys. Hey, today we're going to take the mystery out of this high build urethane primer sealer surfacer stuff. We're going to see what we can do with it. So stay tuned. Okay, seriously guys, we're working on a 65 Chevy pickup here. We're restoring it and we're doing a very old school restoration. It is single stage urethane with a two-tone. So the primer, like we just showed you, that we're going to discuss today, comes in handy of being able to use it as a sealer. And the reason why is you can do all your body work and you can have everything ready. I jammed this already and painted everything on the inside. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to sand all this with 320 and it will be ready to paint right on top of. So what I'm going to do is I sprayed my white already. It's dried for a couple days because we're talking single stage urethane now. It takes a little while. You want to make sure everything's dry before you tape your next color onto it. So I'm going to tape it up where I need to tape it up. We're going to sand all this with 320. Then we're going to back tape this whole entire door. And then I'll be able to spray on top of this urethane primer sealer with the paint. I'll be able to follow right on top of it with the paint. And that's what we're going to show you today. We're going to show you how you would use this primer a little bit more effectively. I told you in a previous video I don't use it very often, but this is one case where you would use it, and I'm going to show you the right way to do it. Alright, so the very first step we want to do is we want to take a little bit of masking tape, and what I always do, my two-tone is going to be right in this crack. And you can see I sprayed past it just a little bit. But what I like to do is I like to come down, I like to give myself 3/4 of an inch. And just come below it and tape up below it. So I have the whole door completely sanded and that. And then I'll come back and I'll clean everything off. And then I'll tape it where it's supposed to be taped. And then after I do that, I'll work up to the tape and just kind of fine tune it. Reason why I do that, it's just a lot easier to like gradually sneak up on it, if you will, rather than, you know, you get carried away and you start blocking the whole door out. Before you know it, you go too far and you're up and you hit your paint or something. Just easier to get it close, tape it off, and then come back and just carefully just sneak up onto the real line that you're going to use. Okay? So the first step is we're going to clean this off. We're going to start sanding it with 320.
Alright, I'm getting ready to sand this urethane primer, and whenever I sand it, I'm going to be using a crosshatch pattern. That way we'll be able to tell easier what's been done and what isn't. That crosshatch will go away as you get more material taking off. That way you know it's all level and smooth.
So you can physically see when you're done sanding the primer then, Brandon? Is that how that works?
Yeah, all these cross hatchings will disappear.
Okay. So if you would just sand it a little, you would still see, like it didn't have it sanded enough.
That would be an example of something that's not done.
Okay. Yeah, I'm seeing like dark spots in the primer. So that means it's not sanded enough.
Right.
Okay. And of course, you wouldn't want to sand the whole way through till you were like showing putty or the old finish. That's too far, correct?
Yeah, you just want to level the material out so you're ready for paint.
That looks really good. Must have had a good teacher.
I know a guy.
And the other thing on these long straight panels too, you always want to run the block over them, because when it's long and straight like that, you want to try to get as many waves out as possible. And I can also tell you, like, if you were painting that black or something like that, sometimes it's necessary to prime it 2 and 3 times and continue with this before you would ever go any further, because you want it as laser straight as you can, and now's the time to do it. with the urethane, it's very easy to sand, and it just, I covered that all in another video that Brandon and I did. But urethane's very easy to sand. You can see how it's just like falling away. It's very easy to sand and work with. So that's why we like to use it.
Hey, can you hand me a beer?
Why, sure.
Thank you.
All this out with 320 for me. We have it all nice and smooth and straight. Now the next thing I want to show you is I wipe it off with wax and grease remover. So I'm gonna wipe this area down. This is where I'm going to be doing my two-tone. So I want to wipe this area down here, get everything good and clean, because you don't want any oils from your hands or anything like that where you're working. That'll cause fish eyes, and that's a whole new problem. We'll talk about that sometime. So best thing to do is avoid them. Cleanliness is the best way. So I get it all cleaned off there, get it dried. I got it all wiped off with wax and grease remover. It's all sanded and prepped and ready to go. The next thing I'm going to be putting down is a line of this fine line tape. What it is it's actually a plastic tape. It's like a plastic vinyl consistency. The two-tone itself is right in this crack. And what I want to do is, since it's all in single stage, what you want to do is you want to make it so as soon as you have everything sprayed and it tacks up, you want to have this stuff will cut a real straight, nice edge. So what you want to do is, instead of letting it dry completely, like when I put this red on, I'll let it tack. Usually what I do is I go clean my gun up and get all done, and then I come back, and by that time I can touch the paper and I can feel the tacky, but it's not coming off on my fingers or anything like that. That is the perfect time to untape it and like pull this vinyl tape. And wait, I'll show you here real quick with a piece. I guess is the best way to show you. But when you take it off, then when you take it off, when you have it all taped up and you go to take this off, what you want to do is you want to pull it back on a really hard angle like that. Almost lay it back on itself and kind of lift up on it. And as you do, and if you do that while the paint's still tacky, as you do, the two will kind of melt together. And what you end up with, well, I have a little bit of it done here around the windshield, but it's a real smooth. It almost feels like you ran a base coat clear coat over it. It just kind of melts into itself, and it makes a beautiful edge. Especially for these old paint jobs. Like I said, this is all single stage urethane. So you kind of want to blend it together just like they would have did back in the day, and it makes a beautiful finish. But that's the key right there. You keep that laid the whole way back like that, and just pick up on it slightly, move it about that speed, and keep your hands and your arms and everything out of it, of course. And you just keep peeling like that, and you'll cut yourself a beautiful edge, and that paint will continue to dry, and it'll just lay, it'll lay right into the others. It makes a beautiful line. You know, when you're all done, like I said, it feels like you sanded it or something. So, all right, that's a little bit on that. So I'm going to actually run the actual line right now. And I don't know how much experience people have with doing this or not, but when I was younger, I worked at a dealership, and my job was to pinstripe vehicles. And I pinstriped a heck of a pile of vehicles in my lifetime. Laid a ton of this tape down. not this tape particular, but pinstriping tape, which is kind of the same thing. So when you take a line, you want to take it, like I know where it sets here in the crack. And then usually you don't just do a couple inches and push it down, a couple inches and push it down. Because if you do that, what you do is everywhere you push it down, you make like a whiffle. It's like a wobble in the line. So what you want to do is get it right where you want it, and you take the whole panel at once. And I used to do this with doors, quarter panels, everything. It didn't matter. It's like the only way it wouldn't work is sometimes I had to pinstripe them out in the car lot if it was actually like a windy day or something. The old tape would get to flapping. That's not a good way to do things. But if you're in a garage or whatever, you're working and you don't have no wind, this is beautiful. But this is the key. Right here is the key to getting a whole straight, like pinstriping job or any kind of tape job. It's do the whole panel at once. Okay, so you watch me. I am just going to follow that body line, and that baby is just going to lay in there right where it's supposed to be. And it's about as simple as that. Okay, so we got the vinyl tape all down. I always check it at the ends too. You always want to check at the ends, like close your doors and that. Make sure all your body gaps and that line up where you want to be and everything. And once you have that where you want it, the next thing I do, the very next step is I'll take a piece of 3/4 inch tape, okay? And what this does, it's not necessary, but when you're untaping this, especially if you do it the way I told you, and untape it while the paint's still wet, it just gives you a little bit of a, I guess, a way to sneak up on it is the best way to put it. So if I put this one on here next, okay, this one will go, I usually split the vinyl tape about in half. And it's nice with using these bright colors because you can see right through it. You can see the yellow on top of the orange. You know you got it, and it's not, you didn't miss any, is what I want to say. But what you're looking for is you're looking to split that vinyl tape. And there again, like I said, when you're doing the untaping process, you pull the paper, you'll have this one, you'll pull this one, now get the majority of it off, and then the very last thing will be like what I showed you about taking and pulling the vinyl tape and just bringing it back at an angle and working real careful till you get that off of there. So you want to make sure your second stage of your tape, I missed a little bit here at the end, I'm going to get it right now, is done, like so. I always go back and I'll push things down real good. And there again, working with these single stages, like this is dried for about 2 weeks now. I like to make sure each one's dry good. These single stage urethanes take a long time to dry. And if you tape them up too quick, like if you tape them up the next day or day after, a lot of times you'll get tape tracks in them. So when you untape it, you'll see where the adhesive was actually on it, and it'll let a mark. And then you got to try to sand that out, and it gets really touchy trying to do that. So the best thing to do is avoid it, and just, when you're working with the single stages, just don't be in a hurry with them. They're a little bit different animal than today's base coat clear coats. So, alright, the 3/4 on. Now the next thing I would do after that is I would take a piece of paper, and it has 3/4 inch mask on it also. I like to use regular approved coated paper too. That's important also. I wouldn't use newspaper and things like that because a lot of times you hit solvents, your overspray, hit that newspaper, they'll take the ink, especially when you're dealing with like whites and light colors, like they'll sink that right into that new paint and you can't get it out unless you sand it out. So do yourself a favor and spend the money on a roll of good masking paper. This isn't the most expensive on the market. It's widely used. It's a good paper. Good paper for the money. So the next thing, like I said, I'll flip this up, and what I'll do is I run that. Now you can kind of see how it all builds together. I run that right along the 3/4. So that one goes right on there. Like so. Piece up there, I'll show you. And there again, like I said, you want to see the one under it, kind of split it, and that's about all there is to it, really. But you always want to think about untaping it before you ever even spray it. And I know that sounds a little strange maybe, but I always think about how I'm going to untape this after I spray it. So, like I said, after I would get this red on this door, then the next thing I would do is I would come in, and like I said, I usually go clean up my gun and get all situated, and I'll come in and I'll touch this paper, and it'll feel tacky, but nothing. It'd be about the same time you would put another coat on, I guess you would say. Because you touch that paper, nothing will come off on your hand, but it's still wet. And then that's why I said you always think ahead. So I'll have this paper in a position where I can literally kind of tear it off, and I'll like start unfolding it as I go, and I'll keep it away from what I just painted, and I'll pull it back and I'll get rid of this piece, and then I'll come in and I'll grab that 3/4 inch piece that we laid on the second trip, and I'll pull that one back, and then like I said, all I'll be left with is that piece of fine line tape, and I just grab that and like I said, pull it up at an angle and just be real careful and easy, and you'll have good success with it. I love doing these old school paint jobs and that like that, and that's the best way I found to cut lines when you're not clear coating it and that. It works out really good. So I guess that's about it. The only other thing I'd want to tell you guys, with that primer sealer, if you would have like a bunch of bare metal showing, like we have several coats of that primer on this, so we know what we have on this. So we were able to block the whole thing with 320. We didn't sand through anywhere. Like, we're ready to paint on top of this now. But if we would come back and we would have had like a bunch of bare metal, like on the edges of peaks, putty showing, then you got to come back, and in the other video I talk about a dedicated sealer, and that's where I would put a sealer on first, and then I would paint it. But the reason why I'm doing it this way, and I chose to avoid sealing at the end, is because I don't want to seal this whole door and have that sealer edge up here too. Like, I want just a minimum amount of paint along that edge. Like, if you put sealer up there, and then I usually spray like 3 or 4 coats of the red, the urethane, get that up there, it starts building up really heavy. And the very edge, it sounds weird, but you can usually see the very edge when you're looking at it like down this way. You'd see that gray. Let's say you use gray sealer, you'd see that gray under the red. So you want to try to avoid all that. This is, like I said, this is a product that you can use as a primer or a sealer. I don't use it very often, like I stated in the other videos, but in this case, it's very normal to use it because I don't want to spray any more on here than just the paint itself. And everything is protected and smooth, and it's ready to go. So I hope that helps you guys, and we're going to keep making videos and look for more in the future, and that's about it. We got a lot of new and different things coming through the shop, and always will, I guess. And we're just going to try to keep throwing the videos at you and maybe give everybody a little bit of education and get you a little bit more informed, I guess. So I guess that's it. Until next time. How about it, Brandon?
Sounds good.
Okay. We'll see you guys. Be sure to subscribe and like if you like. But be sure to subscribe.
You just
and
talked
like.
for 8 minutes. You got this.
Huh?
I said you just talked for 8 minutes.
Yeah,
You got this. Yeah.
Be sure, well, you can use it for an outtake. Be sure to subscribe and like if you like the videos. And if you have any questions, put them in the comments. We'll try to answer them. You know, we do our best. All we want to do is entertain a little bit and educate a little bit. If we've done that, we've done our job. So we're just two guys hanging out in the garage. So subscribe and like if you like these videos. Later.